Hola, soy Marisol, desde Canoga Park, la ciudad toda americana. Estás viendo LA City View, Canal 35, nuestra ciudad, nuestro canal.
Yeah, Madam President, thank you very much. I had the pleasure of attending over the weekend a ceremony sponsored by the Western Justice Center honoring Judge Earl Johnson of the Court of Appeal, as well as our president, Andrea Orden. The Western Justice Center is an organization, and they do a great deal in terms of conflict resolution, and especially in terms of education for young people and helping young people resolve conflicts in a nonviolent and civil manner. And, you know, it was wonderful to see President Orden honored for all of her civic work over the many years, and I'm not going to embarrass her, but it was a very nice event, and her comments were very inspiring and very educational, I felt.
Thank you. I've certainly enjoyed being there. It's a great organization started once upon a time by Dean Dorothy Nelson, who is now on the Ninth Circuit. And she learned very early that resolution of conflicts must be done with peace and with civility, and tries to bring it into both the legal system but also into the schools and into the communities and training in terms of peaceful resolution. So I was very pleased to join a group that works so hard in that area. Any other comments?
Madam President,
I have one other one, which is I also attended yesterday part of the day of the Conference of Internal Audits and Inspection Division's sponsorship. It was law enforcement oversight and people from all over California and out of state as well. The International Law Enforcement Auditors Association was the co-sponsor. It's funded in part by our foundation, and we had more than 140 attendees, mostly from other departments, to talk about the audit process, civilian oversight, and I thought it was an excellent conference. The part I was able to attend, the response from the audience I thought was excellent, and really appreciate the work of Captain Jody Wakefield and Martin Crone and so many in the audit department that work so hard on it. I understand that the conference is still going on.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Now, yes, public comment?
Yes, we have one. We have Mr. Tud Hayes.
Thank you.
I'm pleased to see Commissioner Druin is back with us again. I've been following your exploits with the Sheriff's Department. But anyway, I think it's important to explain to the public how little impact you have on discipline with the police department. While you were away, Commissioner Druin, the police department sabotaged our meeting. They would not allow the public to come inside this meeting at 9:30. They held us outside for 20 minutes, claiming that we had to all be escorted inside by an officer. We cannot randomly walk into this building or into this meeting. Now, until I hear otherwise, I accept that as being the situation. There have been no repercussions. I heard nothing about it. I've not been interrogated. Neither were the 8 persons like myself who were not allowed to come into the meeting questioned about that activity. But in reality, no one controls this department. Not the chief, not you, no one. They simply are out of control, do anything they like, and it's evident and it's obvious, and I think should expose that fact to the population of L.A. There will be a new mayor, perhaps new commissioners. I'm not certain. Some of you might linger on. But at any rate, something has to change when it comes to understanding the predilections of the police to do anything they like and get away with it. So I would hope that at least you clear yourself of any responsibility, any obligation to deal with the LAPD.
And now we will go to the report of the Chief of Police, and when we are on public comment, remind everyone that it is for 2 minutes, and it is a time for you to speak to us and tell us your views. We will be listening, although because of the Brown Act, we don't respond directly to you on those issues, and to speak to the individual item that you're interested in. And now it is the time for the report of the Chief of Police.
Good morning, Commissioners. Since this body last met, the Department and, in fact, the entire region of Southern California has experienced the death of Christopher Dorner in San Bernardino County and the 4 funerals of his murder victims. And even though the most dynamic part of these events are now behind us, there's still much in progress that is left to do. Mr. Chaleff is well into his review of the allegations made by Dorner, not only relative to his personal issue with the discipline system, but his overall complaints regarding the discipline system in general. I have also begun a series of internal audits and meetings that will examine the discipline system, and I intend for both of these things to bring recommendations before the Police Commission. I think it's important in these discussions about the LAPD's discipline system to recognize that this is a system that has evolved over generations and is one that is controlled by a city charter, was last amended in the 90s after the recommendations of the Christopher Commission. It is a system that, while not perfect, has stood the test of time and has multiple checks and balances, including this Police Commission. I have great faith in Mr. Chaleff's review, and I have even greater faith in this body's not only ability but desire to do the right thing by not only the region but also by the members of the Los Angeles Police Department. So while the most physical and dynamic portion of these events are now behind us, we still have many things left undone, and those things will come before this body. Now, let me do my crime piece, since, well, that's my normal report to the Commission. A lot of talk about crime across the country right now. New York is experiencing a decrease in the first 2 months of the year in homicides. Chicago is talking about cataloging their shootings and making them part of Part 1 crime. Of course, these are things that we already do for you, and I'll report on that now. Homicides in the city of Los Angeles so far for just about completion of 2 months of 2013 are down some 30% over last year. Rapes are down almost 33%, robberies down 14.5%, aggravated assaults down 14.4%. In the aggregate, violent crime is down 15.6% as compared to last year. Contained in those violent crime numbers are our shootings. Incidents of shots fired are down just over 9%, and numbers of victims shot is down 18.6%. Property crime, we're off to a decent start. Burglaries are down a little over 4%. Vehicle thefts just under 2% down. Theft from vehicles down about 8.7%. General theft, personal theft other, down almost 14%. That's a total property crime reduction so far year to date of 8.4%. So in the aggregate, those two categories combined together create Part 1 crime, and that's down 9.6%. Crime is down across the bureaus. Assaults on police officers are down about 20%. Officer-involved shootings are down 12%. Gang-related crime, of course, this is a huge focus of the police department and drives much of our violent crime. Gang-related homicides are down a staggering 48.3% for the first 2 months of 2012. Overall gang crime is down 21%. These are citywide trends. Part 1 crime is down in all 4 bureaus policed by Los Angeles Police Department. Personnel status. We started a recruit class yesterday of 39 individuals. They are not on payroll yet. There are 9,993 other sworn personnel on payroll. We have 280 reserve officers that are at level 1, 20 at level 2, 130 at level 3, a little over 1,000 volunteers. We have 2,860 civilian staff, and we are suffering 487 civilian vacancies. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief. I know since we did not have a meeting last week many of the people in the department and on the commission and throughout the city attended the funerals for the 4 victims, some of the most touching and emotional ceremonies that I think any of us have ever attended. The report of the Executive Director.
Excuse me, Madam President, we have
a comment.
2 comment cards. We have General Dogan and Mr. Ted Hayes.
Good morning. General Dogon, human rights investigator, Occupy the Hood, LA Can. Chief Beck, you have been on a media blitz talking to communities around the city about how great LAPD is doing. However, Chief, you have not reached out to the Skid Row downtown community, even though it is where the largest deployment is and where the most concentrated area of policing has happened in the city's histories. This is a well-documented fact highlighted by the United Nations and the National Law Center in its Meanest City report, which names Central Division the worst of the worst. LA Can has worked with its legal partners to bring injunctions to stop First and Fourth Amendment violations and working to stop the ongoing racial profile that occurs downtown on a daily. Chief Beck, you can call it constitutional police if you want to, but there's clearly been a moratorium on the Constitution in my community. For all these reasons, Skid Row should have been the first place that a community forum was held. We demand that forum, and we want it immediately. And our community, which is but a throne's throw away from here. If you don't hold this meeting, it simply reaffirms the fact that transparency and community is nothing more than media talking points for you. Thank you.
Mr. Hayes.
Close.
Chief, we've taken notice of the ongoing shootings of Latinos ever since Susie Pena, and I was questioned by a La Opinion reporter about why no Latinos showed up to protest the shooting and killing of that child. Then, of course, MacArthur Park. And now we have a truck. We have a truck which we understand the chief has promised to replace, but it hasn't happened yet. Is it going to be a new truck, old truck, worthless truck? What kind of a truck? Either the chief could not deliver the truck, or he had no intention on delivering the truck. But anyway, I think it's important to recognize that after all these events, all the money has been risked and taken care of, what's a damn truck? Why can't they get their truck? So, it is a quandary to me why some public relations event like the delivery of a truck with a red ribbon on the top of it, something like that, has not taken place. But it's consistent with the way Latinos have been treated in this community. From Susie Pena, MacArthur Park, and now the newspaper leaders in the truck. Now that truck was monitored from the time it got off the freeway until they finally blew it apart by all these thousands of rounds, hundreds maybe. And they never decided to determine who the occupants of the truck were. Were they 2 ladies, or was it a big guy who looked like an ex-cop? So they blew it apart. And then they shot up another vehicle that looked like a truck. So what were we after that day? A truck or an ex-cop? Give those people their truck. Make a big fanfare out of it. Recoup your credibility.
Madam President, we have an additional 9 comment cards on this item. We have Mr. David Dang, followed by Bill Godson, followed by Mariela Saba, and Karina Clemente.
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
All right. My name is David Dang from Occupy the Hood LA Action Assembly, and I would like to speak on Proverbs 31:9. As far as the history of the LAPD has shown, it is to be notorious for its racist institution. The Rampart Division scandal of the late 1990s is one of the recent reminder of how racist and corrupt the institution is and continues to be. What Chris Dorner's manifesto calls into question is the degree in which racism is blatantly ignored. What reasoned away and legitimized in society in general and in law enforcement in particular. The Dorner Manifesto mirrors the deadly impact of racism and natural oppression of people of color. We call for a demand, public exposure of the depth of perverse racist practices of the LAPD. Demand of open and thorough independent investigation of allegations of abuse and racism by the LAPD. We are calling for an independent investigation of these racist practices outside the LAPD. We refuse to be continuously duped into believing that Bonnie can investigate Clyde. In the tradition of Richie Aoki of the Black Panthers, Yellow Peril supports Black Power.
Thank you.
Bill Godson.
Yeah, my name is Billion Godson, and I understand you sent a couple detectives to one of my relatives claiming that I was calling on behalf of Dorner. I'm pretty sure y'all got enough technology to know, first, it wasn't me. Second, if it was, you would obviously have my phone, and that's all you got to do is call me. I'm saying I don't fear nobody that has to kill children, beat up on homeless folks. I got no respect for none of you, including you, John Mack. I will admit, though, like a lot of folks around the planet, we were shocked that there was one good human being within the Los Angeles Police Department. One person who actually had the courage to stand up against the rest of you all. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have terrorized this community. Non-stop. That's why we relate. That's why we respect what he did. That is why we also know that the LAPD must disband immediately. You know what I'm saying? You do not represent any governing body of the people of this city. All LAPD officers who are non-residents must leave our communities immediately. I heard you told a meeting the other night that the reason why you don't have people from the community police the community is because supposedly a police officer was murdered. That would not happen if y'all were doing y'all job correctly. People will respect you if you stand up and represent them correctly. But it's because you all continue to terrorize the people while Dorner's manifest. We also demand that all political prisoners, nonviolent prisoners, and others who are falsely in prison must be released immediately. Further violations of human rights of any and all residents of our communities will be seen and treated as an act of war by a rogue organization of terrorists. This includes, but is not limited to, assassinations of innocent men, women, and children, any and all forms of brutality, the ongoing kidnapping of our people, detainment and profiling, extortion of the people's money in the name of rogue policy citations, and other charges. Because it is our right, it is our duty to defend and protect ourselves, our communities, and our way of life. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
Good morning, everyone. In front of me, in the commission, the chief, inspector, etc., and everyone in the space. I'd like to first acknowledge everyone's presence here. We missed the meeting last week. A lot of us wanted to be present because there's a lot of necessary dialogue that we all want to engage in, and so I'm grateful that everyone is here. And I also understand that the dialogue does nowhere end here, and it's not fair to have this is not dialogue when we just express ourselves and don't have the opportunity to hear back from you. So I know that the steps that we create here are also going to have to continue. I agree, Chief, there's a lot of work to be done post what has been stirred up in Los Angeles. Everything happens for a reason, and I've been talking to a lot of families and a lot of people as all of this was happening with Christopher Dorner, and it needed to come out. All of this dialogue that communities are having, it's been incredible to see how many people I met who were rooting for him. And when we say rooting or supporting, we're not talking about the people who fell victim as well of this violence. And that violence is not Christopher Dorner's responsibility. It's all of our responsibility. And that's why we're here at this department, because we need to look eye to eye and see the responsibility each of us carry in the deaths that have come about. These are not the only deaths that we experience. A lot of communities are here because we experience this death, this racism on a daily basis in our communities. But only some stories go out there, and only some people's bodies are recognized as dignified of a ceremony. But yet in our streets, a lot of us are facing this on a daily basis. So I'm very grateful that Christopher Dorner's that all of this came out, and that we will be holding you all and all of ourselves accountable. There's much more to say. 2 minutes is not enough, but I'm grateful that there are next steps that we will be following through with.
The next four are Karina Clemente, Jamie Garcia, Craig Tomes, Abdul Mohammed.
Hello, my name is Karina Clemente with the Occupy the Hood Los Angeles Action Assembly. The history of the LAPD has clearly shown that this department has been consistently unwilling to impose serious punishment for racist and terrorist acts committed by the LAPD officers, either through internal mechanisms or by referral for prosecution. History has been made evident that the LAPD lacks in its effort to track problem officers or implement any structural change proposed to remedy the problem. This abuse of public trust by the LAPD sends a clear message to officers who serve out street justice that they will be protected and even awarded for their conduct that continues to perpetuate a culture of racism, sexism, and violence. We call on demand for the LAPD to express the same zeal and determination it did in hunting down Christopher Dorner and applying it to hold accountable the racist and brutal officers who continue to murder, beat, harass the people and communities of color, and particularly profiling our youth of color, keeping them from the education that they deserve.
Jamie Garcia.
Hello, my name is Jamie Garcia. I'm a registered nurse in Boyle Heights and also a member of Occupy the Hood LA Action Assembly. I've come before this commission with Stop LAPD Spying Coalition several times, demanding the rescinding of Special Order 1. I've come before this commission with the foreclosure protest of the Hernandez family, demanding an investigation into why narcotic officers were used to stalk and arrest Ulysses Hernandez. Now I stand before this commission demanding that LAPD investigate and why Christopher Dorner was hunted down with so much zeal. So basically, I'll go on an ad lib right now, but why is it that I have physically come here several times demanding, Stop LAPD Spying be rescinded, demanding an investigation into why my comrade was stalked and narcotic officers were used to arrest him over a MetroPass ticket. Now I'm seeing on the news that Christopher Dorner is being manhunted, and now we have all these glorious funerals for officers, but still I know that people of color are murdered and they're brutalized, they're terrorized in their communities, but we do nothing about that. You pass resolutions here not asking us what we think about it. You pass resolutions when we spend a half hour telling you what we think, telling us that you know better than us. So basically, our research and investigation of the Board of Police Commissioners informs us that Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners is an utter failure. Our findings inform us that the board as currently composed is not a solution to our problems. The Board of Police Commissioners acts merely as a rubber stamp. So we call for community control of the police. And I'll say that again, community control of the police. We will hire, we will fire. let's see, I'll go back to my, go stop ad-libbing again. So community control of the police through an independent elected civil police accountable board with the power to subpoena, investigate, suspend, again, fire racist and abusive LAPD officers.
Craig Tone.
Good morning. Good morning. In January of 2010, a woman came forward and accused LAPD officer James Nichols of rape. According to the LA Times, who broke the story in January of this year, she immediately reported this crime to his supervisor in the narcotics division. Shortly after, another woman did likewise, alleging that the same officer and his partner had forced her to perform oral sex back in 2009. But it gets worse. Due to this department, and particularly this chief's continued commitment to what former Chief Parker coined as the thin blue line, one of the officers involved in both of those crimes, who was never charged by this department or the DA, was later accused of severely beating a bank executive, Brian Mulligan, in May of 2012. However, rather than seriously investigating those accusations, this department made a concerted effort to slander the victim in the LA Times, undermining his credibility by speculating that he was on bath salts. As if, even if that were true, it would justify Officer Nichols, an already accused serial rapist, of savagely beating him and holding him hostage in a hotel room. And now, since the LAPD refuses to hold officers like Nichols accountable for their continued belligerent criminal behavior over a 5-year period against those they swear an oath to protect, the entire city is the subject of a $50 million lawsuit. When the LAPD refuses to remain accountable, the rest of us pay, sometimes with our sense of safety, sometimes with our bodies and lives, and sometimes with our wallets. There are many more incidents like this that have occurred under Chief Beck's watch. Some made headlines, others did not. But the culture has not changed. The culture of the LAPD is insular, racist, violent, and utterly unchanged from its problematic past. There is an expression for Chief Bratton and Chief Beck's legacy at the LAPD, and it is not transparency and or fairness. It's putting lipstick on a pig.
Abdul Mohammed, followed by Michael Novick and Javier Rodriguez.
Good morning. My name is Abdul Mohammed. I'm with LA CAN. LAPD discipline system, a joke. Review of allegations, a joke. Internal audits, a joke. As Chief Beck said, far from perfect. We experience much of what Christopher Dorner outlines in his manifesto. Additionally, the idea that racism in the LAPD is a thing of the past is blatantly false, or that the ghost of Gates and Parker are gone is just outrageous. For example, just last year in Central Division, a lawsuit was brought against the department as a result of a black senior officer receiving a birthday cake with chicken and watermelon toppings. Guess who is going to pay for the continued racist acts? We are, the citizens of Los Angeles, because the lawsuits keep coming. So we are to believe that racist policing in our community doesn't happen in light of the rampant racism occurring within the department and in your own ranks. Again, this was last year, well after Parker and Gates dies. I'm calling for a community forum in downtown in Skid Row to immediately occur. Since the tensions exist within the department and officers clearly don't have mechanisms to stop the racism there, the only place left to diffuse the emotional and mental is against the communities in which you protect and serve. Thank you.
Mr. Michael Novick.
I'm Michael Novick, resident of Los Angeles, member of Anti-Racist Action. I moderate a group called Stop Police Abuse Now on Yahoo Groups. I challenge the members of the Police Commission to understand what your role is in this system. You are window dressing, designed to have a pretense of civilian oversight over a department which is essentially a military force. The problem is not police misconduct or individual officers. The problem is police conduct. The police are delegated by the mayor, by the city council, just as the sheriff directs the sheriff's department with the approval of the board of supervisors to act as an occupying army in communities of color, and as an internal border guard in more privileged communities. The effect on individual police officers of that, as it was with Christopher Dorner, is that it's creates massive internal contradictions to any individual who tries to uphold the actual criterion of serving or protecting the community, because it's not designed to serve or protect the community. It's designed to serve the 1%, the exploiters and oppressors, and to protect a system of exploitation, oppression, and colonialism, so that the results of that are massive amounts of domestic abuse by individual police officers within their own families. It's the result that one of the largest sources of police officers dying is eating their own guns, and your job is to make that all disappear. And so I support the call that was issued for community control of the police. I think that if there is going to be a police force, it has to be designed to protect and to serve the community, and not to protect and to serve the exploiters and oppressors and the system of colonialism and white supremacy that is manifest in this whole society. The expression "lip-syncing the pig" was already used, so I won't repeat it, but you have a responsibility to challenge the system that you're actually protecting.
Javier Rodriguez.
Good morning, everybody. Listen, my name is Javier Rodriguez. I've been an activist for several decades in this city, Latino activist, and I was part of the CAPA against the LAPD lawsuit, made up of 136 organizations and individuals, and as you know, that lawsuit was for illegal police spying on social activists for approximately 15 years. I was also one of the plaintiffs in the case of police brutality stemming out of the Democratic National Convention of 2000, when there was quite a few of us beaten. I wanted to tell you that three things real quick. Like on May 1st, 2006, March 25, 2006, the Latino immigrant community exploded all over the country, but in LA we had a record-breaking 1.7 million demonstration, okay? And on that day, the semblance, the attitude of LA police officers was one of smiles, was friendly. It was people, demonstration friendly cops, okay? And as a matter of fact, we had police officers march with us, not in their uniform. People that really felt the situation. So on the next year, 2007, May 1st, 2007.
Sir, your time is up now.
Really?
Time is up. Yes,
Yes,
quickly, but yes, it was.
Oh, shit.
And that is...
Thank you, sir.
Just quickly, on May 2007,
And that is the final comment card.
2007, it was a different LAPD from the morning on. The morning at 7 o'clock, you definitely pumped those people.
Okay,
and
thank you,
beat
sir.
250 people.
Thank you.
And none of them, and Mr. Mack, I brought this up at that police commission hearing at that first, and
please sit down.
None of the cops was ever jailed.
All right. Thank you,
Amongst
sir.
other things.
Thank you.
And Madam President, that's the last comment card on this item.
Thank you. We are now to the report of the Executive Director
No report this morning, Madam President.
and the report of the Inspector General.
Also no report, Madam President.
We have our information filed items, noise variance permits on file. Additional detail is in the agenda as a whole, as well as the special event permits on file. Are there any presentations today?
No, ma'am.
All right, and on the consent agenda items, we have consent agenda items A through C. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move approval of the consent agenda items 7A, B, and C.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It is approved. And today on our regular agenda items, we have our verbal presentation and update, our CPAB report of the 77th Street area, and we have on C, the department's report relative to Southwest Area Detective Command Accountability Performance Audit. Are there any other items that we should hear today?
Yes.
D is being postponed, the unbiased policing.
B and C.
I think that's it. And I don't think we need, B will be in the closed session as well, so I don't think we necessarily need to pull it now.
You can have your public report, which is before you in the public agenda. Then you'll have your closed session report separate from that, Madam President.
All right.
And then item C will be continued. I'm sorry, item D continued to March 5th at Commissioner Saltzman's request, since he is not here today.
All right, and I'll accept a motion.
Madam President, I move approval of items 8B, E, F, G, H, and I.
I think we're going to pull B. I think we are going to pull B.
Oh, we're not going to hear that now?
So
Okay.
we'll
I got it.
Yes, it would be E through I.
I would move approval of items 8E through I.
Is there a second?
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
And that is approved. And we'll go straight to the verbal presentation and update from CPAB in the 77th Street area. Captain Arcos?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioners, thank you very much. Mr. Bustamante, Mr. Tifank, and Chief Beck, thank you for having us this morning on behalf of the men and women from the 77th Street area and the proud communities that we serve. We're really happy to be here before you today. To my left is my very passionate, enthusiastic, and tireless CPAB co-chair, Ms. Dana Johnson. I'd like to
Welcome,
introduce
Ms.
you
Johnson.
today.
Good morning, everyone. And you may proceed.
Good morning, Honorable Commissioners. We'd like to...
You might want to put the microphone a little bit closer to you.
I'm sorry.
She usually doesn't need the mic.
Thank you, Captain. Good morning, Honorable Commissioners. We'd like to begin our presentation with a video highlighting what we're doing in regards to innovation, using video innovation to better reach our community. So,
okay.
without further ado.
Yeah, thank you, Dana. And Commissioners, in your packets, we left a longer video for you. It's 17 minutes long, and it's something that we loop in our front desk lobby area. But we have a condensed version because of your time. This is a 2 to 3 minute piece that shows some of the things we're doing in the future.
Thank you. Should be here too. It does.
One of our newest programs is going to be our media program here at 77.
We get it here too.
To post important information and provides us another way to communicate with our citizens on a personal basis. We also have a YouTube channel where we post all of our community videos. From everyone here at 77 Division, we thank you for checking out all of our community programs, and we look forward to a new year of community policing.
Thank you. Well, I think that's terrific. I mean, I actually had seen some of these already before on the internet, and as Captain Wakefield knows, some of the other outreach programs around the state have got booklets and for the schools, but I think you're absolutely right that it's just got to be on the internet, and it's got to be on television and other videos, maybe even in the schools as well.
Okay. Absolutely. What I wanted to do is just highlight some of the things that we've done last year, and then what we're going to do in the current year and moving forward. Last year we started a surveying process of our community to explore the awareness of the CPAB, as well as explore the community's perceptions of safety, the effectiveness of our police department, specifically 77th, and the awareness of the youth programs that are happening in our division as well. And we were fortunate to have doctoral students from the University California at Irvine working at our stations, and they worked with me to formulate a survey that was translated in Spanish as well. And we were able to get quite a few responses, not as great as we'd like, but they actually took the responses and are in the process of creating a presentation to our group to highlight some of the results. Specifically, it's actually helped us determine what our outreach strategy needs to be in terms of connecting better with bringing in more men into our volunteer program, Latinos, and then also just increasing the community's awareness of all the things that are happening at 77th, particularly in regards to our youth, which I'll transition into what we're working on now. I'm really excited. We all are excited about implementing our teen CPAB. We have a steering committee that is meeting regularly, and we're in the process of having our first meeting with our youth next month. So we're really excited about that. We also are focusing on, as I said, increasing the overall volunteer involvement with our station. That is obviously an area that we'd like to work on more, which the survey kind of confirms that. And also working with our existing CPAB to increase community awareness regarding emergency response. We've all, quite a few of us have completed the CERT training, and there's more than half of our CPAB has completed it, and we're continuing to make sure all our members are trained, and we'll continue to be involved in activities in that area as well.
Madam President, as innovative as the presentation was, and I congratulate you, it is very innovative. I've been fortunate enough to, when I've been out in the community, I see folks, and 77th, your CPAP group from 77th is always very well represented and very enthusiastic. I think, Captain Arcos, I think you have great partners in that community, because every time there's something, 77th folks are there.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I also want to acknowledge, the innovation happening in our community relations office. Just last week we had our first CPAB meeting in the community. We actually had it at a McDonald's, which was really well received by our community. And then this past weekend we had a Tacos with Cops event. So it's also building that relationship with our business community, as well as the community overall, the department.
I'd just like to talk about really quickly the Tacos with Cops program was sponsored by El Tapatio Market at San Pedro and Florence, and really we're really trying to do a much better job with our outreach to our Hispanic community, and that was one way of doing it. And we also use it as a bridge to our crime prevention techniques. We have some battery theft problems in the communities, and we were able to do free inscription of their batteries with an ID number, because we are catching people with car batteries. We just can't tie them back into the crime, and also scoring the license plate tab, which is another little problematic crime problem that we're having. But it was really a great venue, and we had a lot of people out there, and we signed a lot of people up for our Hispanic Outreach Committee as well. So.
How many members do you have in the CPAB altogether?
We're 37, obviously wanting to grow and looking for enthusiastic individuals as myself to continue to carry on the mission of collaborating with the department and maintaining a positive relationship to increase public safety overall.
What's your goal for the teen CPAB?
We actually are leaving that door open. The goal is to bring as many youth as we can to be interested and involved with our station. I think the station does offer a lot of things that are positive, and working together with the community, especially our youth, I think it's endless. They bring fresh ideas. They'll help us definitely in our social media campaign, our video campaign, and then they can also help getting their families more connected to the station as well. So,
part of that Teen CPAB program and the philosophy behind it for us, for me and Dana, is to reach the kids. If we can reach these kids and bring them in, they're very excited right now. We can reach their parents, and if we get the parents, we'll get the neighborhood, and if we get the neighborhood, we'll get the community, and that is the way we're working through those steps. So.
Any other questions or comments? Well, we thank you very much for coming in. It is always a better part of our agenda to be able to hear from CPABs throughout our community.
We do have one comment card on this item, Madam President.
Thank you.
We have Mr. Tud Hayes.
The infamous 77th Street Division. You have a lot of makeup to do for the community at the Slauson Western Mall. They took all their property off of the lawn and threw it in the alley. And after a week, there was more junk and debris thrown into the alley, and more until the entire alley from beginning to end was lined with debris. Got the pictures. Got the people who could not get in or out of the garage. Still upset about how could the LAPD do such a thing. But the most important thing right now for you to do is look into the jail. Now, there's a different commander for the jail than the actual commander for the station. But there's a section called Penal Code Section 851.3, 851.3, where it gives persons the right to make phone calls free. Lawyers, family members, bondsmen. And it's supposed to be posted. But it's not posted at 77th Street Division because they painted it and took the posting down. That's what they tell me. But they did put up a sign saying, well, if you use a phone here, it indicates you've given consent for the LAPD to monitor and tape record your phone call. Now, how did that sign get back up where the actual sign required never reached the walls again? So look into that, will you? Because it's a crime when the police don't post that. It's a crime. And you would think that because it is a crime, it would be duly taken care of, but it was not. And I was there on an arrest because they wouldn't sign a jaywalking ticket. And they didn't feed me. And I couldn't eat what they provided unless someone was going to accompany me with a Heimlich maneuver. And so I collapsed at the traffic court. And that's something I'll bring to your attention later on. Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion? I don't think we need one. No.
No motion necessary.
We will now 8B, the Inspector General's report on the work permits audit.
Thank you, Madam President. Also approaching the table will be the Assistant Inspector General, Gary McCaskill. Briefly, the My office has completed its work permit audit, and our review and findings are outlined in the 15-2 that's in your binders and also publicly available. During the past 2 years, employees were granted more than 4,000 work permits for outside employment. Due to the potential impact outside employment can have on officers' on-duty work performance, the department has set up and establishes policies and acceptable guidelines for the issuance of those work permits. The OIG conducted this audit to test those policies and determine if the department was in compliance with the established standards. We tested whether work permits were properly completed, whether the approval process was properly followed, whether permits were approved for authorized types of employment, and in general whether the work permit data was accurately entered into the computer automated permit system. Based upon our findings, we concluded the department was in full compliance with its policies regarding work permits and that adequate systems are in place to properly review, approve, and track work permits. And subject to any questions you may have, Commissioner, I'll submit.
Yes, I have a couple of questions, and not so much with the specifics you just talked about, but I noticed that there was one policy change that Chief Beck made, increasing the number of allowable work hours per week from 20 to 30. I guess I raised this because it seems to me that there should be some concern regarding the potential for burnout. I mean, officers having to assume their responsibilities as police officers for LAPD, and then, having a significant additional second job. Would you, I don't know whether Commander Mazing, whether you or Chief Beck would like to comment about that concern?
I apologize, Commissioner. I believe that was not part of this report and is actually part of a closed session report for discussion.
Okay, well, all right.
I will, on the public report, you do say that there are 4,000 approvals for work permit. Would that sometimes be just for a day, another time for a week? What are the timing of those work permits?
If I may answer, Commander Stuart Maislin from Personnel and Training Bureau. It could very well be a one-time event or something that's very sporadic. Oftentimes officers will have work permits in, for example, to work the Academy Awards, and we know that comes once a year. So officers may have multiple work permits that obviously they're not working at all of those places every week, but they may be hit or miss.
Well, there was in that connection, though, I noticed again there was a rather significant increase in the number of work permits that had been approved.
Well, some of that may have actually coincided with the elimination of cash overtime as well. Opportunities that officers previously had to earn cash overtime on the department, when that ceased to exist, the only way to supplement their income is off-duty employment.
I know we'll have a chance to review more in the closed session some of the more personnel details of that. But it was certainly good to see on the audit side 100% compliance. So, except for, well, it was close to 100% for the. There were
with some data input issues, and we'll have to be a little more careful in data input.
Right. Any other questions or comments now? All right. Thank you very much. And I will take a motion on that.
Madam President, I move we approve the Inspector General's report.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved. All right, and then we now move to the department's report relative to the Southwest Area Detective Command Accountability Performance Audit.
C?
Yeah, it's number C, or letter C. whoever wants to lead this off.
Good morning, ma'am, commissioners, chief. My name is Detective Kimry from Internal Audits and Inspections Division. I was the project manager for the Southwest Detective Command Accountability Performance Audit. As you're aware, the Detective Command Accountability Performance Audit is utilized by Internal Audits and Inspections Division in the department to evaluate detective functions within the different detective areas. Southwest Division, this is the very first detective CAPA that Southwest has been subject to, and overall, it was a very good audit. However, as you can see from the report that you should have in front of you, there were a couple of areas, a couple of objectives that we did come across findings in. These findings, once they were reported in our report, we met with Lieutenant Davenport and the commanding officer of Southwest area and discussed these findings. I can answer any questions about specific to those findings or the way the audit was conducted. If there's no questions, I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Davenport to tell you the steps he's taken to correct the issues that we found.
I think we can turn it over to Lieutenant Davenport.
Thank you. There were two areas that we focused on. The first was the evaluation of detective work product, specifically Area A. In one case, we had 3 detective-initiated arrests, which all of the arrests were made by one detective. And in this particular case, the detective failed to, although the detective Mirandized the suspect, he failed to properly document it inside of the arrest report. In terms of that particular issue, on December 19th of last year, I provided training to all the detective supervisors. Additionally, I put another level of accountability in it. All detective-initiated arrests must be reviewed by the table coordinator, which is a D3. After the D3 reviews the arrest report, then it comes to myself or the assistant detective commanding officer, and we're going to review the arrest report for the second time. And then after it completes that review, then the report will then go to the watch commander, who will be the fourth pair of eyes reviewing the arrest report. I think those 4 levels of review will be sufficient to ensure that this problem does not occur again. Additionally, on the backside, we're going to have a detective audit, and the first audit will be conducted in April of this year, and that audit will look at the evaluation of detective work product, specifically this issue that I've identified. I think those levels of protections will ensure that Southwest will be 100% in compliance as it relates to this issue. The other issue was area number 4, which is the evaluation of the supervisory roles, and this is called 17B4 of the District Attorney Interagency Operational Agreement. The real problem that we had was specifically on the major assault table. The major assault table had 7 cases where they did not refer it to the district attorney. They sent the cases directly to the city attorney. And what I've done in terms of that is that since December of last year, for the major assault table, we've conducted an audit each month relative to compliance with the interagency operational agreement as it relates to the MAG table, and each month they've been compliant with the agreement. Additionally, let me back up. In December of last year, on the 19th again, I provided training to all the table coordinators and supervisors, and also provided them with a copy of the agreement. I think the training would to me indicates the positive discipline. On the flip side of the coin, or in terms of negative discipline, if we find that they're not complying with the agreement or with their mandates, then we're going to go after it in terms of a different type of discipline, which would be negative comment cards all the way to a complaint. I've indicated earlier, in April of this year, we will be conducting several audits within the Detective Command, ensuring that we're compliant with the conditions of the overall CAPA audit. And what we also will do is the audit that we're currently conducting on the MAC table will also move that audit to all the other tables to make sure that they're 100% in compliance. I think these methods or these things I've discussed will be adequate to ensure that in a short period that we are in 100% compliance.
I was surprised by the number of times in which what I thought were fairly serious crimes were not being presented by to the district attorney's office, and I appreciate, I think, the steps you're taking to ensure this doesn't happen again. But I'm a little bit concerned if this is a more widespread problem in the department, because as I look at this, every one of these, it seems to me, would have been pretty obvious to have presented to the district attorney's office in the first instance, and yet it went to the city attorney's office. So I just want to raise that as a question as to any sense of why that happened, and is it a widespread problem?
Well, it was,
go ahead, Matt.
I'm sorry. My name is Matt Blake. I'm the commander of operations. The issue of this, we've looked back at the prior CAPAs, and the West LA one, we didn't have that problem. The Rampart one that came up in August, we did have that problem. When I pulled those numbers to see, or I pulled those reports to see where if they coincide as far as time goes. Because what we did was when we had the Rampart, it was a significant issue for them as well. We ended up going to direct reports with this, our ROO direct reports with this. We handed out the report of the audit that they did at Rampart, as well as the directive that indicates when they should and should not 17B4 on their own. That was given out a month after these were pulled. So there was really no chance for us to change on that one. So that's just the way the time worked out on it. But as a result of that also, we created a checklist. And I know checklists are not always a panacea, but if they're used, they work. It's a very complicated list. Every single crime has a different expectation of what would be okay for them to 17B4 on. So as our detectives move from table to table, their requirements change. And so as a result, we're going to get this list published. It was created by West Bureau. West Bureau hasn't had a failure in that area, and we're going to try to go citywide with, or we will go citywide with that.
Just to talk about it at a little different level, I met with Jackie Lacey yesterday. One of the topics of conversation is 17B4, city attorney referrals. You know, what happens is the city attorney's filing guidelines are somewhat different throughout their different geographies within the city. The 77th senior detectives are very familiar, especially the ones generally that work the MAC table, very familiar with what the city attorney will file rather than the district attorney. So sometimes in their exuberance to get things done quickly and efficiently, they go right to the city attorney because they know the DA won't file this case in that court. But you know, that does not. That's just by background. You know, we're working with the DA. We'll work on it on the macro level. In the meantime, what Matt is talking about will keep them current with the current agreement. But the reality is that in many of these situations, in those courts, in those filing courts, the DA will make that referral, and so that what the senior detective is trying to do is save his detective 2 trips, because that's what it is.
May I add something to that? I've made it very clear to my table coordinator that they are to comply with the mandate, although he might be trying to make it easier for the detectives under him. There is no exception to complying with the mandate.
And so what I'm trying to do is to give the detectives more flexibility so they can meet the reality of what they do for a living, rather than just follow the mandates. Because what happens with his detectives, and I'm very aware of this, is that if they have a case and it's one-on-one, even if there's injuries and even if it's DV, it's going to be a CA referral. But the mandate is that they go to the DA first. They take all the paperwork, all their 12 copies, and it goes to the DA, and then the DA says, no, take it to get the blue slip, go to the city attorney, throw away 8 copies, go make a fresh charge sheet for the city attorney, drive to the city attorney, and go do that case there. So it takes much longer. They're just trying to shorten their workload. But this is not to excuse it, because this needs to be fixed on my level. not their level.
And I agree with everything that's been said, and I think that is the purpose for failure in that regard. What I'd also like to see is to see, as we go through it, whether you want to change the rules to some extent. Not that, just what's on the list, on that checklist, because if in fact all of these are rejected by the DA,
That's our discussion. That we're trying to work with Jackie to change the rules so that they, like I said, it's got to get fixed at my level, not 77's level.
That's right. Exactly.
So we're working on that. Actually, Matt's working on it.
And the most important thing is to get them to the prosecuting agency that will effectively and aggressively prosecute the cases. And I'm glad to see that at all levels we're starting to do that. Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval of a regular agenda item 8C.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. Any comment? Comments?
We have 6 public comment cards.
All right.
We have Mr. Daniel Jones, followed by Max C., Annie Hall, Eric John Diesel, Mr. Ted Hayes, and Don Ward.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Jones, and I'd like to give my condolences to everybody who lost their lives, and Chief Beck, you should have never been put in that position. I don't believe what anybody says. I saw Gangster Squad the other day, and it's all about the police department as far as I'm concerned. The reason why I'm here is because the city of Los Angeles accepted $10.6 million from the Department of Homeland Security to pay for the officers' operating expenses. The chief of police and the commission should not be put in a position as far as what their operating expenses are. The city of Los Angeles is perpetually broke. Why? So they can perpetually accept grants from the Department of Homeland Security. As far as I'm concerned, the Los Angeles City Police Department, this is their home, this is their security, and it's their responsibility to pay for it, not the police department, us. The village of Los Angeles should be the only ones that pay for our police department. Because we can go right across the street to City Hall and bring up an item 1, defunk the police commission. Item 2, reinstate it and hire all of it, everybody back up again. But we're going to maintain the control of the Los Angeles Police Department financially in a local level. Do you see the federal overreach by having the Department of Homeland Security pay for a local jurisdiction at all? The chief of police is having to mandate all the funding that goes along with it. And the concept of the Federal Highway Act, they all had to go 55 miles an hour. The chief of police is having to put equipment out on the street that just violates everything that this country's built on. I can say a lot of real mean things, and I don't want to. We have to keep talking about this. The Inspector General, you need to start respecting the people's opinion. I understand what your positions are in this world. You're there for a reason, and I want you all to be there. Chief Beck, my condolences. Have a good day.
Max C.
Honorable Commissioners, my name is Max C. I'm a public official, elected representative of the homeless population of downtown, sitting on the Downtown Neighborhood Council and voting member of its Public Safety and Health Committee. I would like to talk about bathrooms in Skid Row. With the recent TB outbreak, just highlighting the fact that there isn't sufficient sanitation and safety, soap, and other amenities for the homeless population for downtown. And I plead the department to reconsider its position on more bathrooms and amenities for Skid Row. Thank you.
Thank you.
Annie Hall.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Annie Hall, and I have been here several times before. I'm a victim of Southwest Police Department corruption and racism. 3 of the officers, AC, DS, and Brown, trespassed in my yard, and they broke my kitchen window out and broke into my house. They had me falsely arrested. They gave my house, all my possessions, cars, everything that me and my family own to two criminals. Then Officer Diaz, he went to court and lied on me and perjured himself. They had me convicted for criminal trespassing. I'm sorry. And they were supposed to do an investigation here, and the investigation came out to be corrupt and biased. Just never interviewed me or any of my witnesses or got my evidence. I just feel so bad because I trusted y'all. I trusted the police department. I trusted that it would be an investigation. It never was an investigation. And I would like to have an investigation, a real investigation done. These officers fired or put in prison or whatever you need to do to them. And I need to get my house back and my... See, I had a nephew that got killed because it was 13 family members, they ended up homeless. We're all still homeless. And I just don't really know what to do because I don't know what y'all going to do or how y'all going to conduct this investigation. I just need honesty.
Thank you. You can speak to the Inspector General at the conclusion of the meeting.
Eric John Diesel. Go ahead.
Is Carlos listening? Okay. My name is Eric John Diesel. David Coram is in violation of his probation for his fourth major felony conviction. His probation officer says his hands are tied because LAPD has jurisdiction and will not report the crimes, including elder abuse. David Coram was on 60 Minutes for his historic fraud crimes and in Forbes magazine in 1991, Washington Post 1995, and over 100 stories over 20 years, all about different crimes in different countries. On November 14, 2012, attorney Bobby Lau wrote to Chief Beck, "Dear Chief Charlie Beck, in my representation of Mr. Diesel, he has indicated to me that he was the victim of kidnapping and fraud. The kidnapping of Mr. Diesel was in retaliation of Mr. Diesel's attempts to report to LAPD the fraudulent conduct of Elvira Gamboa and David Coram, and Robert N. Rooks, Yashing Group, Craig Lesser LLC, and their associated companies. Admittedly, Mr. Diesel's claims at first glance may seem implausible. However, Mr. Diesel has provided to my office ample records that document and corroborate his claims. I sincerely request that your office investigate these very serious crimes of kidnapping, fraud, dependent adult abuse, and child abuse. On August 2, 2012, Dr. David Thom, MD, wrote that his separate investigation over 40 hours concluded the same. Dr. Thom is Director of Research at UCSF Medical School. On August 23, 2012, Dr. Wallace Sampson, MD, wrote that he spent over 100 hours investigating and concluded the same.
Thank you. If you can leave that additional information here at the end of the meeting. Your 2 minutes are up. Thank you.
Ted Hayes.
Mistaken identity. Now, Baby Pena was shot by an LAPD sharpshooter, marksman, sniper. They were killing her because they thought her father would harm her. At any rate, there's a magazine called Police Magazine, the law enforcement magazine. They talk about blue-on-blue shootings. Police officers shooting other police officers. Usually the officer who shot is off-duty in civilian garb. But here's what they have to say. It is worth noting that the officers killed while acting in an off-duty capacity during the course of the past 30 years, more than half of them have been African Americans. Of these officers, few ever fired their weapons, while cops understandably sensitive to accusations of racial profiling, it would be unconscionable to ignore the role of race in blue-on-blue shootings and perniciously apathetic not to address it. So this is a police magazine pointing out that more than half the officers shot by other cops over the past 30 years are black. I will point out to you that what people said about the ex-cop being supported, rooted for, and accepted, I was a little stunned when I got that information from the community. I really was. I think Ms. Mack can acquaint you with the articles, the editorials that appeared in the black press, the Wave, the L.A. Watts Times, and those newspapers, pretty much in sympathy and in support with the ex-cop. So when you have magazines like this pointing out there are problems with racism when it comes to police activity, I think you should take heed. Maybe have some kind of real open session on dealing with that issue. Thank you.
And the final card is for Don Ward.
Hi, Police Commission. Thanks for hearing me. I'm just here to remind you guys that in the next week or so, from what I understand, you guys are going to be doing a report to the Public Safety Committee on hit-and-run crimes committed in Los Angeles. And last week, we saw, once again, the LAPD advocating for speed limit increases in our city. And I'm here to just continue to plead that the LAPD stop advocating for speed limit increases, and instead of working with the LADOT to advocate for speed limit increases, to actually direct the LAPD to implement street calming, traffic calming measures on our streets. Because when you guys advocate for those speed limit increases, it actually makes it more dangerous for myself and the thousands of youth that ride bicycles and pedestrians that walk in our city. And you guys are doing great connecting with the youth through LA Critical Mass and through other groups where the police are working with these thousands of youth in our city that need exercise, that want to be out there riding their bicycles. And here's yet another chance where you can help us continue that relationship and continue to build a relationship with the new generation by protecting them out on the streets and protecting them by advocating for traffic calming. There is no way that any driver in any urban setting should be driving 45 miles an hour between red lights. It's something that's just impossible to do, even if there's no traffic. So we should be working towards calming those suggestions, those giant suggestions of speed limits on our streets. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that is the final card, Madam President.
Thank you. We will now recess to our closed session. Thank you very much.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 10A and 10B in accordance with various government codes.
Hey, Eddie.
In closed session, item number 10A1 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 10A2 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. In closed session, item number 10A3 was discussed and the Chief's recommendations were unanimously adopted. And in closed session, item number 10B was discussed. Madam President, is there a motion for adjournment?
I move we adjourn. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and we are adjourned.
Sergio in Pacoima. You are watching LA City View 35, our city, our channel.
I'm here with Anna, who's a specialist in the recycling business.
Hi.
So Anna, tell us, let's answer Pedro's question. Are we going to run out of space in the landfill?
Absolutely. Landfills don't last forever, that's for sure. The more we consume in our society, the quicker the landfills are